Good morning. Day 212. You're going to hear some rain in the background. We have coming from my deck again with my buddies. There's Mallory, and it's raining. So, anyway, we'll keep this short and sweet today because I don't think it needs to be too verbose. Does it ever need to be? That's just part of how I roll, my verbal processing. I read Mark chapter 15 today, and it is Jesus being arrested and then crucified. And what I'm going to focus on is the mocking that happened. A lot of what preceded him actually, and even while he was on the cross, the mocking that happened to him. And I think for us and our egos, when we read that, that is almost as horrific as the actual crucifixion. Maybe even more so, the pain of being mocked and ridiculed to the extent that he was. Like, we can handle physical pain, I think, better than we handle the pain of mocking. But really, mocking doesn't hurt or kill us, but man, it feels like it. We are pack animals. We need to belong, and mocking is one way that we have power over each other to signal belonging. Like, you better get in line. We've talked about this before, but on the flip side of that, when you are the one being mocked and ridiculed, it's also a signal that you have power. Like, people wouldn't be mocking Jesus to this extent if there wasn't part of them that was actually afraid of him, and they were trying to put him in his place and get rid of him and just be done with this nuisance who was calling himself the Son of God and King of the Jews. Actually, he never called himself King of the Jews. That is what part of how they mocked him. But Jesus knows the power of mocking, and he knew and allowed himself to go through it because they were kind of putting the nail in their own coffin and actually supporting him and his credibility, because he would in fact be raised from the dead. And there were lots of witnesses there too. That's what I noticed. There were lots of extra names thrown in this chapter. And I did do a little recon on that. Like, what's that about? Salome was mentioned. Simon and his sons, 2 sons were mentioned. And there, anyway, some of the commentaries said that was to make sure that we know as readers, this was not just some metaphorical story to help us believe this. Like, this was something that really happened, that has real implication, and also has a lot of metaphorical meaning as well. But this event, this crucifixion of Jesus, and even all of the mocking that took place really happened. And to also show us, hey, as my followers, even though we've got all this testimony and this is still hard stuff to believe, and when you believe it and you are willing to talk about it, there's going to be a lot of people that mock you. And so there are a lot of us, and I've been there too, that have believed a certain way, and I'm comfortable talking about it with my fellow believers. But sometimes I'm more comfortable talking about it now because I forced myself out there. But I'm sure there are a lot of people that mock me behind my back, or, that's okay. And to start getting myself comfortable with mocking and even see the reverse power in being mocked, that what I'm saying is threatening. And even within believers in churches, we're expected to toe party lines, doctrine, dogma, their rules versus other churches' rules. And a lot of us, if we start to, think for ourselves, read the Bible and think for ourselves, and we know that we can discerningly take in other information and truth from other sources, we may get mocked by even our fellow believers within certain structures. People love structure. That's, that you have your immediate family structure, your family of origin, your community, your churches. People, once they find a thing to belong to, they like to put a lot of structure and rules around it of engagement. And when you step out of line, expect some mocking. And there's some power in that. And even catch yourself doing it to other people. This is one way we really keep each other in line. But when you know who you belong to, and when God is for you, who can be against you, that kind of stuff can cease to have power over you, which Jesus demonstrates here. This did not have power over him. Even in the midst of this, did he like it? No, but it didn't deter him. It didn't sway him. He knew what was happening, and he knew the power, the real power structure, and allowed himself to go through it. But when you are so confident in who you are, you know what your beliefs are, and you aren't afraid of other men, other women, other people, that is threatening to other people. Our egos are so fragile. It's so interesting to do some ego work and check yourself and really start paying attention to yourself. Even playing an experiment and just shut your mouth. Resist the temptation to put your 2 cents in, or to give even a mocking, sarcastic look. Sarcasm is another word we use for mocking. So if your love language is sarcasm, maybe play an experiment with yourself and just stop for a while. Just stop and notice how that is your ego reacting. And it's not a very loving thing. And it's not a real healthy way to relate to other people. It's one way, again, we're just kind of lovingly checking people, saying, you're flirting with some lines there that I don't like. You're threatening my ego, and my ego is gonna, in the mask of wearing something funny, say something to somebody else. But that gets old after a while too, and it gets old to even do that to other people. I'm just really trying to get out of this whole mocking game, but I'm human. It happens, and I have to check myself, because that is, and even when I hear it from other people, it's just an automatic knee-jerk thing, but it's all fear. It's all fear-based. Everything, as I'm reading the Bible, that, again, that is the foundational message. Love versus fear. Love versus fear. And even the human version of love is not real love. It's just a shadow, and just maybe even a mockery of what real love can be. So the power of mocking, and maybe even allowing yourself to be mocked without defending, see it for what it is, and realize it's actually a signal to you that you've got more power than you think you do, versus you don't have to receive whatever shame or anything that's being put on you. And when we realize who we really are, we actually behave better. We're less likely to find ourselves in situations where we get into trouble. it's usually from a place of mocking. And you hear it all the time, even in real like trials where people are really doing some stuff to get themselves arrested legitimately, not falsely like Jesus here. And because they were so afraid of being mocked by their fellow criminals or people that they were hanging out with, that they went along with something rather than, and betrayed themselves and got themselves into situations, because that's how painful we view mocking and being mocked. We don't like it. And I think when we read these stories in the Bible, and when we even see maybe depictions, I think our egos actually identify and find more pain in the mocking that Jesus, and I didn't mean to laugh because I think it's not funny. Sorry about that, probably a nervous laugh. That we identify with the pain of being mocked, probably even more than the actual crucifixion, or maybe just as, because I think we can handle, we handle physical pain more than we handle emotional pain. We don't like that is, and you see it happening in power structures everywhere, that mocking is an oft used tactic, and it's very effective and very powerful until you cease to recognize it as such, and then we can really be a threat. And then we can even really maybe rise up in our own lives to a higher level, because we realize, oh, that's just mocking. That's just that. I don't need to, that doesn't need to stop me. I can do whatever I want here. I can rise up and be who God's calling me to be. And you see that over and over again, even in the Old Testament, all the prophets. I mean, that was one of the things that prophets had to be willing to do, being mocked and appearing crazy and doing it anyway. And we see their names in print, not the names of the mockers. And one of the Roman guards, as Jesus is even taking his last breath, and the skies had gone dark and the curtain torn in the temple, even had that moment of realization, like, holy moly, he is who he says he was, and probably repented right there of his mocking, and realized that the mockers were the ones that were really mocked in the end, by their own mocking. Anyway, so interesting, often the paradox of how things actually work in God's law, and to even be able to try to maybe intentionally pull yourself out of those mocking games that we play, and try to rise above and really see it for what it is, and try to stop participating in it. And that, I think, is where some true power lies for the human potential. All right, have a great day. Rise and shine. I think the rain's settling down a little bit here. And I'll give you one last look at our beautiful trees. Oops, there we go. Nope. You gotta love technology. And I have had a few people reach out, and at the day of this recording, it's the last day of July in the year 2022, and we have some really severe flooding going on in eastern Kentucky. That's a few hours from me, up in the mountains. Very sad. A lot of people have lost their lives, a lot of devastation, complete towns even wiped out, and homes carried away by the floods. I am okay. We're okay here in the Louisville area, more in the western part of the state. But do pray for those people, and all those lives that have been affected. It's very sad. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.